This channel is supported by truefire. Truefire is an online library of
enough. You can get the truefire all access pass for as cheap as they ever do it, the $99 thing. So just jump and do that if you're looking for the best price that you can get truefire all access for.
In this video, I wanted to show you a little bit of a side of doing gear demos, because I think there is certainly, when you speak to people about this, there's this idea that that's something that other people would be really wanting to do. When you talk to people about making YouTube videos in general, I think it's kind of cringe for a lot of people, and they couldn't think of anything worse, except for playing wedding gigs, I guess. But the reason I've fallen into doing it is, I guess, a little bit different to some people. Like, I had been uploading on YouTube for quite a few years, then and Instagram as well. I think I did a demo just with a Line 6 Helix native, because there was like a free sort of trial, and I kind of threw it up there, and Line 6 kind of sent me a message on Facebook or something like that, and they were like, would you demo the thing which sets houses on fire? And I said, is it going to set my house on fire? It didn't. And then I said, could you send me an HX Stomp? I'd love to figure out how that thing works. I was a Kemper user at the time. And that's kind of was the first company that I really did any demos with. And I was kind of offhandish with it a little bit. I kind of felt like there was plenty of people doing demos already, which of course was the case and is definitely the case now as well. But, you know, one more person making demos probably won't hurt, probably. So then I think Origin Effects might have been one of the first companies that were like, would you do a demo of this thing? It's not launched yet, and I was like, yes. At this stage, I would not have been doing demos for money. It would have been for the gear. You might get to keep the gear. Sometimes you might get offered some loaner gear. Then just things sort of carried on ticking around in that kind of way. And then when my daughter was born, I decided I don't need dignity anymore, or integrity. All of those things can go out of the window. And I would be a little bit more... because you get emails basically if you make these YouTube videos and stuff like that from companies that are like, would you want to check out this, or we're looking for someone to promote this. The one thing I will say is that it's often the case that they won't offer money which is fine, but it takes you to basically ask for it, for that to sort of come your way. And if not, you'll probably end up doing stuff for free forever. Companies will be fine with that, but I kind of decided that essentially, if everyone else is being paid to do these demos, and you know, I'm getting asked to do stuff, and then I'm getting asked by the people that are doing the demos, how would you do something on this, and I feel funny about that, then probably I'm willing to take money to do a demo as well, right? Is kind of my thought. And so instead of doing demos for like plugins for free or whatever, I would send an email back like saying, is there budget to promote this? Some companies would go quiet, some would not. In terms of what I charge, it ends up being about like a day rate, because back in the day I did a video for Yamaha, which, as in I had to go and travel to do it, and they were asked like, what would you charge for a day rate? I said, I have no idea, I've never done anything like that. And so they paid me £400 for the day to kind of travel to wherever it was, Milton Keynes or London or whatever. London, I think it was. It was the Yamaha Pacifica, it was a blue one. Anyway, so I did that, and so that became like the day rate. I now charge a little bit more than that, but you know, the sort of money that you might make from a gig or two is what I try to charge, which for some companies, I think it's relatively affordable for some companies. For other companies, you know, it's not. But that's kind of how I've got things up. Now, you can see other people might charge quite a bit more, but for me, I kind of felt like, yeah, that's fair enough, isn't it? The part that you don't see so much of is that where do you put this stuff once you've done your demo? So one of the things that Giacomo Tura got in trouble for was that he had sold some of the gear that had been sent to him. Now, I don't know if some of those things he may not have fulfilled what the companies were asking for before he sold it. So that was one of the things. But one of the things that people were getting onto him about, and I kind of thought, well, actually, if you've got a lot of people sending you gear, you have a different kind of perspective on some of this stuff, which is that I've now got like, there's 3 boxes over here. So I thought I'd show you this side of things a little bit. So I've demoed one of these guitars, which is obviously that one, the Artist AT53. I've got one other to demo. Behind that is a box which has a PRS in it, which I demoed. Obviously, you know, these are my 2 actual amps. I got one in the storage as well, which is the Rift Amplifiers one. Reasonably, there's some of these bits which I can show you and some other bits which I can't. So this is the other part of it, where you've got to be able to keep things under wraps, potentially, because you might have stuff which is embargoed for months or whatever. This is a box from Fuchs. Fuchs Amps sent me some pedals to demo. I'm not paid to demo them, but Andy reached out and just said, you know, would you be interested? Then I've got some stuff here which I did a couple of videos with, but I don't have a home for these yet. I haven't done a demo of that yet. Radio I did stuff with was once an organised home for some pedals, is now a bit disorganised. We've got the Venus, Origin Tweed, Boss OD3. This is a Heartwood pedal. This pedal doesn't actually work when bypassed unless it's quite hot, so it probably works actually today. What do you do with your boxes? Metal Scream, Boss BD2. I mean, of all the pedals that I grab at the most at the moment, it'd be the Venus, the BD2, or the OD3, because they're quite useful. Got some pedals from David Barber, that's a Fuchs thing. This one is a J Rocket Blue Note, which I did a demo of. You know, got Tonex here, a Jam Red Muck. I've got that one out for a video the other day. This is my neighbour's Behringer Digital Reverb. Do you know what I mean? It's just disorganised chaos. Down here I've got a Zen Drive Line 6 DL4. This belongs to Andy, who's got my Van Wilden Royal Overdrive. I bought this one to do a video with. Haven't really used it since. There's a parcel which I've not opened. I think that's an Origin Effects Halcyon drive, which I ended up buying, but have never actually demoed it since I got one. 2 boxes for ODR ones. Do you know what I mean? It's just because I'm mostly using modeling most of the time, this stuff just is not very organized. GT1, these belong to Tony from up the road. I also got, I forgot I bought a dark matter distortion. Modeler zone, so there's an FM3 which is actually a backup, and an XFX3. Boss Pod Express, not Pod Express, that's a Pod Go. That's a Pod Express. Some new X pedals that I've never used. It's just endless. The things that I've kind of agreed is that it shouldn't come out of my room, but I've actually got a collection tomorrow. So there's a jet guitar in here, there's a Spira guitar in here, and there's a jet guitar in there. Now, if I told you when those were actually featured on the channel, you might be quite surprised. For instance, this is another jet guitar, which I kind of forgot about, that needs collecting. This is a Harley Benton. There's some 8-string baritone guitar that I demoed ages ago. It's just, what do you do with all this stuff if you're in a normal house? Per amp at the bottom there. This stuff is in storage essentially with my normal PA stuff, which I need to get to every week. So I think, yeah, if you're going to do this, you do need storage, really. Otherwise, what? Is it going to live in your car, live in your loft, live in your garage? There's an extra bit of storage. This amp is getting collected, hopefully soon. And there's kind of more guitars in here that... Because it's just, I think, if you're living as a normal person in a normal house, so the square footage of this house is about 1,000 square foot. There's a tiny bedroom for Elodie. This bedroom here is actually the biggest, where I do the videos, but it's not huge. I think it's about maybe like 4 meters that way by 3 that way, or something like that. It comes to a point where it's like, what do I do with some of this stuff? And this is also why I think I talk about things like, for me, because I went through the stage of having like gear that would sort of explode out of the house. This was before doing demos, really, and sort of find its way into your wife's life, and she's like, this is another amp, why is this in our living room? Or, you know, things that would just end up just taking up the house. You also need to, or factor in that you're going to have boxes everywhere, because some of this stuff you might have to send back because it's just loaner gear, and it's a whole thing. So this is the side of gear demos that I think you don't see too much of. I once saw in Ola Englund's videos that there was essentially like a big space, essentially, which I don't have, and the guitars were quite neatly kind of piled up, and I thought, well, that'd be a nice thing, wouldn't it? So maybe one day I'll be able to move to a much bigger space where actually this will be a thing of the past. But for now, so there's like a Gretsch over there that I think I'm going to have to send back. There's 2 artist guitars here that I need to demo. Behind that, there was a box for a PRS. In front of me, there's an embargoed thing. There's 2 embargoed things there. There's my washing here. There's a pedal board there. It's one of those things. So I think this is... Well, I'm sure some of you guys just have houses that are not big enough to keep some of the stuff you have in them. And for me as well, because I like to keep the boxes, that becomes a whole other thing as well. And it's kind of, you end up looking like a hoarder. I remember moving house to this one, and my wife she was here, I think, and I was like, right, I'm going to go empty the loft. And I looked at the landing after I'd taken all these boxes out, and it was just full of cardboard boxes. So that's what I'm trying to avoid, and that's one of the things. I try to, my own sort of guitars and my own amps, I try to kind of keep those like a little bit smaller of a collection, stuff that I just play all the time, because this other stuff that I'm demoing, I'm very grateful to work with companies and make a living doing this, or it is like quite a nice way to earn money, and pays better than doing gigs for me, and is more regular work than gigs for me. So, you know, I'm grateful for it in that regard. I think affordable. So if you're looking for demos, shoot me an email. But yeah, so that's just the other side of gear demos that I guess you don't see so much of. I guess one final story that I'll give you, and not mention any names. There was one company that did an NDA with them, and they got in the contract. It was like, we'll see the video before it goes up, and it was like a starter pack. So you get these starter pack guitars with a guitar amp, sort of, call it an amp. It's not really an amp, but they go in one parcel together. The parcel went to my old house, so I had to go and collect that off of the guy who had moved into our old house. And that was a bit awkward. Then I got it out, and kind of depression set in a little bit. I was like, I wouldn't want a kid having to learn on a guitar like this, particularly unless they were not interested at all. But I did a video with it, and I did do a little bit of playing of a K-line versus it to try and show that it was in fact a guitar, and that you could make noises on it that sound like a guitar. The amp was a bit trickier, but I stuck a mic in front of the amp and was like, well, that's what that sounds like. And put the video up. It spent like a day making that video, put it up for them to see, and they were like, okay, we need to talk. Could you be a bit more positive about the guitar? I was like, honestly, I was about as positive as I could be. I didn't say anything particularly negative, but no. So we decided that we wouldn't put that video up, and we wouldn't work on that type of video any longer. But that's kind of some of the things that could happen. Anyway, that's story time for today. I'll catch you in another video soon. If you've ever got a piece of gear that you've seen on the channel that you think, actually, I was really interested in that, do feel free to email me, particularly if you're in the UK. I guess I've sent a few bits and pieces around the world, like that Paisley telly went to the Netherlands, Dirk. But if you're, particularly interested in anything, then I can't keep it all. So, yeah, shoot me an email.